Hey warrior, think about this for a moment. Every single person you admire, every individual who has achieved something meaningful, every human being who has found genuine peace and strength, they all share one common thread. They reached a point where they looked in the mirror and said, "This version of me isn't enough anymore." They made the hardest decision anyone can make, to let go of who they were, to become who they needed to be. But here's the contrast that most people don't understand. While everyone around you is trying to find themselves in other people's approval, in relationships that drain them, in jobs that slowly kill their spirit, in social media validation that feels as empty as it sounds, the truly transformed individuals did something completely different. They turned inward. They walked away from the noise, the expectations, the comfortable lies they told themselves, and they rebuilt their entire identity from the ground up alone. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the ancient world, wrote in his personal journal, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." Think about that. The Emperor of Rome, surrounded by armies and advisors, understood that real transformation happens in solitude. In the quiet moments when it's just you facing the truth about who you've become and who you want to be. This isn't about running away from people or becoming antisocial. This is about understanding that before you can genuinely connect with others, before you can build meaningful relationships, before you can contribute something valuable to this world, you need to know who you are when nobody's watching. You need to rebuild yourself from the inside out, based on your own values, your own vision, your own understanding of what it means to live with purpose and integrity. The old you, that person who seeks validation from others, who makes decisions based on fear, who settles for mediocrity because it's comfortable, who complains about circumstance instead of changing them. That version of you has served its purpose. It got you this far, but it can't take you where you need to go. The transformation you're seeking, the life you want to build, the person you want to become, all of that requires you to destroy the old patterns, the old mindset, the old version of yourself that no longer serves you. And here's what nobody tells you about this process. It's going to feel lonely at first. When you stop seeking approval from others, when you stop participating in conversations that drain your energy, when you start saying no to things that don't align with your values, when you begin making decisions based on your own inner compass rather than external expectations, people won't understand. Some will try to pull you back into old patterns. Others will make you feel guilty for changing. But this is exactly why you need to do it alone first. Solitude isn't punishment, it's preparation. It's where you learn to trust your own, to hear your own voice above the noise of everyone else's opinions, to build confidence that comes from within rather than from external validation. It's where you discover what you actually want, not what you think you should want based on what others expect from you. The Stoics understood this deeply. They knew that true strength comes from self-mastery, and self-mastery can only be developed when you're willing to face yourself honestly without the distractions and influences that keep you from seeing clearly. This transformation we're talking about isn't a quick fix or a temporary change. It's a complete reconstruction of who you are at your core. If you're ready to begin this journey, if you're tired of being the same person you were yesterday, if you want to build a version of yourself that you can genuinely respect and be proud of, then like this video, drop a comment below, share it with someone who needs to hear this message, subscribe to the channel, and don't skip any part of what we're about to explore together, because what you're about to learn will change everything. Drop this affirmation in the comments: 1. Choose to rebuild myself from within. Number 1. Accept that your current self has an expiration date. Here's a truth that will shake you to your core. The person you are right now, with all your current habits, beliefs, limitations, and comfort zones, that person has an expiration date. And the sooner you accept this reality, the sooner you can begin the most important work of your life. Seneca, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, wrote, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." Think about what that means. Right now, you're living in the end of one chapter of your life. The habits that got you here, the mindset that brought you to this point, the version of yourself that you've become comfortable with, all of it needs to end for something better to begin. But here's where most people get stuck. They know they need to change, but their attempt of letting go of who they currently are. They hold on to their old self like it's some precious treasure, even when that old self is the very thing keeping them from the life they want. They make excuses. This is just who I am, or I can't change at this age, or people expect me to be this way. These are all lies you tell yourself to avoid the discomfort of transformation. The truth is, you're not a fixed entity. You're not carved in stone. You're a work in progress, and you have the power to decide what the next version of yourself looks like. But first, you have to be willing to let the current version die. This means accepting that the person who got you to where you are today might not be the person who can take you where you want to go tomorrow. The version of you that settles for less, that avoids difficult conversations, that procrastinates on important tasks, that seeks validation from others, that makes decisions based on fear rather than vision. That person needs to go. When you truly accept this, something powerful happens. You stop defending your limitations. You stop making excuses for behaviors that don't serve you. You stop clinging to an identity that keeps you small. Instead, you become curious about who you could become. You start asking better questions. What would the best version of myself do in this situation? What habits would someone with my goals have? What beliefs would someone living my dream life hold? This acceptance isn't about self-hatred or being harsh with yourself. It's about being honest. It's about recognizing that growth requires letting go. Just like a snake has to shed its skin to grow larger, you have to shed your old self to become who you're meant to be. The snake doesn't cling to its old skin and try to stretch it to fit its new size. It naturally releases what no longer serves. The most successful people understand this principle deeply. They don't get attached to old versions of themselves. They're constantly evolving, constantly improving, constantly willing to abandon what worked yesterday if it won't work tomorrow. They understand that who they were last year, last month, even last week might not be equipped to handle the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead. This process of letting go starts with brutal honesty about your current reality. Look at your habits. Look at your relationships. Look at how you spend your time, your energy, your money. Look at the conversations you have, the content you consume, the thoughts you think most often. Ask yourself, is this the lifestyle of Samean, living their dream life? Are these the habits of someone achieving their goals? Is this the mindset of someone building the future they want? If the answer is no, and for most people it will be, then you've just identified what needs to expire. You've just discovered what aspects of your current self need to be consciously and deliberately ended so that something better can begin. The beautiful thing about accepting the expiration date of your current self is that it frees you from the prison of this is just who you are. It opens up infinite possibilities for who you could become. It transforms you from a victim of your circumstances into the architect of your future. But remember, this acceptance has to be followed by action. It's not enough to intellectually understand that you need to change. You have to actually be willing to do the work of destroying old patterns and building new ones. You have to be willing to feel uncomfortable as you let go of familiar ways of being and embrace new ways of thinking and acting the old you served. Its purpose, it got you this far, but its job is done. Now it's time to thank it for its service and let it go so that the person you're meant to become can finally emerge. Number 2, stop seeking permission to change your life. There's something most people do that absolutely destroys their potential for transformation, and they don't even realize they're doing it. They seek permission. They ask everyone around them if it's okay to change, if it's okay to want more, if it's okay to be different than they used to be. And when those people who are often stuck in their own patterns say no, they abandon their dreams and settle back into mediocrity. Epictetus, who went from slave to one of the most respected philosophers in history, taught, "No one can hurt you without your permission." But here's what he understood that most people miss. This includes the permission to limit yourself. Every time you ask someone else if you should pursue your goals, every time you seek approval for your dreams, every time you let other people's comfort zones determine your potential, you're giving them permission to keep you small. Think about this carefully. The people around you have gotten used to a certain version of you. They've built their expectations, their relationships, their own sense of identity partly around who you currently are. When you start talking about changing, about growing, about becoming someone different, it threatens their comfort zone. Not because they don't love you, but because your transformation reminds them of their own stagnation. So what do? They discourage you. They remind you of past failures. They tell you to be realistic. They say things like, "That's not who you are," or "People like us don't do things like that," or "You should be grateful for what you have." And if you're seeking their permission to change, you'll take their words as gospel, truth, and give up before you even start. But here's what you need to understand. You don't need anyone's permission to transform your life. You don't need your family's approval to pursue your dreams. You don't need your friends' understanding to change your habits. You don't need your co-workers' support to level up your standards. You don't need society's validation to live according to your own values. The moment you stop seeking permission is the moment you reclaim your power. It's the moment you reset it. Your life is yours to design, your future is yours to create, and your potential is yours to unlock. Nobody else gets a vote in what you're capable of becoming. This doesn't mean you become arrogant or dismissive of good advice. It means you learn to distinguish between wisdom that serves your growth and opinions that keep you trapped. It means you stop making other people's limitations your limitations. It means you stop letting other people's fears become your fears. When you stop seeking permission, you start making decisions based on your own vision rather than other people's expectations. You start taking action based on your own goals rather than other people's comfort zones. You start building a life that reflects your values rather than everyone else's opinions about what your life should look like. The most successful people throughout history understood this principle. They didn't ask for permission to innovate, to create, to push boundaries, to become more than they were. They simply decided what they wanted to become and then did the work to make it happen regardless of what others said or thought. This is especially important when you're rebuilding yourself alone. Solitude gives you the space to hear your own voice above the noise of everyone else's opinions. It gives you the clarity to see what you actually want versus what you think you should want based on external pressure. It gives you the courage to pursue your own path instead of following someone else's roadmap. But stopping the permission behavior requires conscious effort. You have to catch yourself when you're about to ask someone if your dream is realistic. You have to notice when you're seeking approval for decisions that are yours to make. You have to recognize when you're letting other people's reactions determine your actions. Instead of seeking permission, start seeking information. Instead of asking if you should pursue a goal, research how to achieve it. Instead of wondering, I feel allowed to change, focus on developing the skills and mindset you need to change. Instead of looking for approval, look for mentors who have already achieved what you want to achieve. Remember, the people who love you will eventually support your transformation when they see the positive results. The people who don't support your growth were never really on your team anyway. Your job isn't to convince them that you should change. Your job is to change and let the results speak for themselves. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I am the author of my own transformation. Number 3. Embrace the discomfort of becoming unknown. Here's something that will terrify most people. When you truly commit to rebuilding yourself, you become a stranger to everyone around you, including yourself. The person you're becoming doesn't have a track record yet. They don't have proven results. They don't have the comfort of familiar patterns and predictable outcomes. This unknown version of yourself exists only in potential, and that's exactly why most people never meet them. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "Confine yourself to the present." But he understood something profound about this advice. The present moment is where transformation happens. And transformation always involves stepping into the unknown. Every moment you choose to act differently than you have before, you're creating a new version of yourself that has never existed. Most people are addicted to the familiar version of themselves. Even when that version makes them miserable, they know exactly how the current version of themselves will react in any situation. They know what to expect from their days, their relationships, their outcomes. Even if those outcomes are disappointing, there's a strange comfort in knowing what to expect. But when you start rebuilding yourself, everything becomes uncertain. You don't know how the new version of yourself will handle stress. You don't know what the new version of yourself will want in relationships. You don't know how the new version of yourself will spend free time, make decisions, or respond to challenges. This uncertainty feels terrifying because you're literally creating a person who doesn't exist yet. The people around you will notice this too, and it will make them uncomfortable. They'll say things like, "You've changed," or "I don't recognize you anymore," or "What happened to the old you?" These sentiments aren't necessarily criticisms, they're observations of truth. You have changed. They don't recognize you anymore. The old you is disappearing. And that's exactly the point. But here's what you need to understand. This discomfort is the price of admission to a better life. You cannot stay the same person and expect different results. You cannot hold on to familiar patterns and expect to grow. You cannot remain comfortable and expect to transform. The discomfort of becoming unknown is temporary, but the regret of staying the same is permanent. When you embrace this discomfort instead of running from it, something magical happens. You discover that you're capable of more than you ever imagined. You realize that the limitations you thought were permanent were actually just habits. You find strength you didn't know you had, wisdom you didn't know you possessed, and potential you didn't know existed. This process requires incredible courage because you're essentially betting on a version of yourself that you've never met. You're investing time, energy, and effort into becoming someone who exists only in your vision of what's possible. You're building a life based on faith in your own potential, rather than evidence from your past performance. The key is to get comfortable with not knowing. Get comfortable with feeling awkward as you practice new behaviors. Get comfortable with the uncertainty that comes with changing your standards, your habits, your relationships, your entire approach to life. Get comfortable with the fact that the person you're becoming might want different things, value different experiences, and make different choices than the person you are today. This unknown version of yourself is like a muscle that gets stronger with use every time you choose the new behavior over the old one. Every time you make the uncomfortable choice instead of the familiar one. Every time you act as the person you want to become rather than the person you've always been. You're building evidence that this new version of yourself is real, capable, and worth becoming. The discomfort of becoming unknown is actually a sign that you're on the right track. It means you're growing beyond your old limitations. It means you're expanding beyond your old comfort zone. It means you're creating space for a version of yourself that's more aligned with your potential. Don't let the fear of the unknown keep you trapped in a life that no longer fits who you're meant to be. The person you're becoming is worth the discomfort of not knowing who they are yet. Trust the process. Embrace the uncertainty and have faith that the unknown version of yourself is better than the familiar version you're leaving behind. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I trust the unknown version of myself. Music number 4. Build your foundation in solitude. There's a reason why every great transformation in history began with someone stepping away from the crowd. It's not because they hated people or wanted to be antisocial. It's because they understood something most people never learn. You cannot rebuild yourself while you're still performing for an audience. You cannot discover who you truly are while you're busy being who everyone else expects you to be. Lao taught, at the center of your being, you have the answer. You know who you are, and you know what you want. But here's the problem. Most people never get quiet enough, still enough, or alone enough to hear that inner voice. They're constantly surrounded by noise, opinions, expectations, and distractions that drown out their own wisdom. Think about your typical day. How much time do you spend truly alone with your thoughts? Not scrolling through your phone, not watching TV, not listening to music or podcasts, not talking to other people, just you in silence with your own mind. For most people, the answer is practically zero, and that's exactly why they feel lost, confused, and disconnected from their own purpose. Solitude isn't loneliness. Loneliness is feeling empty when you're by yourself. Solitude is feeling complete when you're by yourself. It's the difference between running away from yourself and running toward yourself. When you learn to be comfortable in your own company, when you learn to enjoy your own thoughts, when you learn to trust your own judgment, that's when real transformation becomes possible. In solitude, you stop performing. You stop trying to be impressive, likable, or acceptable to others. You can finally be honest about what you actually want versus what you think you should want. You can acknowledge your real feelings instead of the ones you think are appropriate. You can admit your true desires instead of the ones that make others comfortable. This is where you build your foundation. In the quiet moments when nobody's watching, you decide what kind of person you want to become. You establish your values based on your own understanding, not on what others have told you should matter. You create your own vision of success instead of accepting someone else's definition. You develop your own standards instead of lowering them to match the people around you. But here's what happens when you first embrace solitude. You'll discover thoughts and feelings you didn't know existed. You'll uncover dreams you buried years ago. You'll remember parts of yourself that got lost in the process of trying to fit in, please others, or meet expectations. Some of these discoveries will be uncomfortable because they'll show you how far you've drifted from who you really are. This is exactly why most people avoid solitude. They're afraid of what they might find when they're alone with themselves. They're scared they might discover they don't like the life they've built, the relationships they've settled for, or the person they've become. So, they stay busy, stay distracted, stay surrounded by noise, so they never have to face these truths. But the people who transform their lives do the opposite. They seek out solitude. They create space for silence. They spend time getting to know themselves without the influence of others. They use this alone time to plan, to dream, to set goals, to develop new habits, to practice new skills, to think deeply about what they want their life to look like. In solitude, you also learn to distinguish between your voice and everyone else's voice in your head. You realize how much of what you thought was your own thinking was actually just other people's opinions that you internalized. You start to separate your authentic desires from the desires that were programmed into you by family, society, media, or peer pressure. This foundation you build in solitude becomes unshakable because it's based on your own truth rather than external validation. When you know who you are, when nobody's watching, when you know what you want, when nobody's influencing you, when you know what you value, when nobody's pressuring you, that knowledge becomes your compass for every decision you'll make, the strongest. People are those who are comfortable being alone because they've learned to be their own best company. They don't need constant entertainment, validation, or social interaction to feel good about themselves. They've built an internal world that's rich, interesting, and fulfilling. This internal strength then radiates outward and attracts the right people, opportunities, and experiences into their lives. Start creating daily solitude, even if it's just 15 minutes in the morning before you check your phone, or 30 minutes in the evening after everyone else goes to bed. Use this time to think, to plan, to dream, to get to know yourself. This isn't wasted time. It's the most important investment you can make in your future. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I am comfortable in my own company. Number 5. Stop explaining yourself to people who don't understand your vision. Here's a trap that destroys more dreams than failure ever could. Trying to explain your vision to people who don't have one. You get excited about your transformation. You start sharing your goals and plans, and then you spend hours, days, sometimes weeks trying to convince others that your dreams are valid, realistic, or worth pursuing. By the time you're done explaining, you've lost all your momentum and half your belief in yourself. Epictetus understood this deeply when he said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." He knew that people don't need to understand your reasons for changing, they just need to see your results. When you try to explain your vision to people who can't see it, you're essentially asking them to believe in something they've never experienced. That's like trying to describe the color blue to someone who's been blind since birth. The problem isn't that these people are bad or unsupportive. The problem is that they're operating from their own level of awareness, their own experiences, their own limitations. They can only see possibilities that exist within their own understanding of what's possible. When your vision extends beyond their experience, they literally cannot comprehend it, no matter how clearly you explain it. Think about the people in your life right now. How many of them are actively working on transforming themselves? How many have clear visions for their future? How many are willing to sacrifice comfort for growth? If the answer is few or none, then these are not the people you should seeking understanding from about your transformation journey. When you try to explain your vision to people who don't understand it, several things happen, and none of them are good. First, you start to doubt yourself. Their confusion becomes your confusion. Their lack of belief becomes your lack of belief. Their questions about whether it's realistic make you question whether it's realistic. Second, you waste precious energy that should be going toward building your new life on defending why you want to build it in the first place. Third, and this is the most dangerous part, you start to modify your vision to make it more acceptable. To them, you tone down your goals to make them more realistic. You lower your standards to make them more achievable. You shrink your dreams to make them more understandable. Before you know it, you're not building the life you want. You're building a compromised version that makes other people comfortable. The most successful people throughout history understood this principle. They didn't waste time trying to convince everyone around them that their vision was valid. They simply pursued their vision and let their results do the talking. They understood that some people will never understand your dreams until they see you living them. This doesn't mean you have to be secretive about your goals or antisocial about your journey. It means you become selective about who you share your vision with. You look for people who are also growing, also transforming, also pursuing something bigger than their current reality. You seek out mentors, coaches, or communities of people who understand what it means to rebuild yourself from the inside out. When someone asks about your changes, you don't need to justify them. You can simply say, "I'm working on becoming the best version of myself," and leave it at that. You don't owe anyone a detailed explanation of your goals, your methods, or your timeline. Your transformation is not a group project that requires everyone's approval or understanding. Instead of explaining your philosophy, embody it. Instead of talking about your vision, work toward it. Instead of trying to convince others that change is possible, become living proof that it is. When people see you becoming more confident, more focused, more successful, more at peace, they won't need explanations. The evidence will speak for itself. Remember, the people who truly matter in your life will support your growth, even if they don't fully understand your methods. They'll trust your judgment, Bez. They trust you. The people who try to discourage you from growing, who demand explanations for your improvements, who make you feel guilty for wanting more, these people are revealing that they're not aligned with your highest good. Your job is not to make everyone understand your journey. Your job is to take the journey. Stop explaining yourself and start becoming yourself. The right people will understand without explanations, and the wrong people won't understand no matter how much you explain. Number 6. Master the art of saying no to your old self. Every single day, your old self will knock on the door of your consciousness and ask to come back in. It will show up disguised as comfort, convenience, or just this once. It will remind you how easy things used to be when you had lower standards, fewer goals, and less responsibility to your future self. And this is where most people fail in their transformation. They keep saying yes to the person they're trying to leave behind. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." But here's what this really means in practical terms. Every moment, you're choosing between the old version of yourself and the new version you're building. Every decision is a vote for who you want to become. And if you keep voting for the old you, that's who you'll remain. Your old self is persistent because it's familiar. It knows all your weaknesses. all your excuses, all the ways to make you rationalize going back to old patterns. It will whisper things like, you deserve a break. One time won't hurt. You can start fresh tomorrow. This is too hard. Maybe you're expecting too much from yourself. These aren't random thoughts. They're the voice of your old programming trying to pull you back into comfortable mediocrity. But here's what you need to understand. Saying no to your old self isn't just about avoiding bad habits. It's about protecting the new identity you're building. Every time you choose the new behavior over the old one, you're strengthening your belief that you really are capable of change. Every time you say no to the old pattern, you're saying yes to the person you're becoming. This requires what the Stoics call discipline of desire, the ability to want what serves your highest good rather than what feels good in the moment. It means choosing the workout over the couch, the healthy meal over the comfort food, the difficult conversion over the comfortable silence, the investment in your future over the instant gratification of today. The challenge is that your old self is cunning. It won't ask you to abandon all your progress at once. Instead, it will negotiate. It will ask for small compromises. Just skip the workout today. Just eat poorly this one meal. Just procrastinate on this one important task. Just avoid this one uncomfortable conversation. But these small compromises add up to big failures in transformation. You have to become ruthless with these negotiations. When your old self shows up with excuses, comfort-seeking behaviors, or familiar patterns that no longer serve you, your answer has to be a firm no. Not maybe later, not just this once, not I'll start tomorrow, just no. This doesn't mean you become rigid or impossible to live with. It means you become selective about what you allow into your life. You start asking different questions. Does this choice serve the person I'm becoming? Will this decision move me closer to my goals or further away? Is this behavior aligned with my values or with my old patterns? The beautiful thing about mastering this skill is that it gets easier with practice. Each time you say no to your old self and yes to your new self, you build momentum. You create evidence that you really are changing. You strengthen the neural pathways that support your new identity and weaken the ones that support your old identity. But you also have to be prepared for the fact that your old self will get more persistent, or it gives up. It will throw tantrums. It will make you feel deprived, restricted, or like you're missing out. This is normal and temporary. It's like a muscle that's been used to being weak, suddenly being asked to get strong. There's going to be resistance and discomfort. The key is to remember why you started this transformation in the first place. Remember the vision you have for your life. Remember the person you want to become. Remember how it feels to live below your potential versus how it would feel to live up to it. When your old self comes knocking with its comfortable lies and easy excuses, remind yourself that comfort is the enemy of growth. Start treating every choice as sacred. Every decision you make is either building the person you want to become or maintaining the person you want to leave behind. There are no neutral choices in transformation. You're either moving forward or moving backward. You're either saying yes to your future or yes to your past. Master this art of saying no to your old self, and you'll discover that saying yes to your new self becomes automatic. You'll find yourself naturally choosing behaviors that align with your goals, values, and vision for your life. You'll become someone who can be trusted to do what's right, even when no one is watching. Even when it's difficult, even when your old self is begging you to give up. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I choose my future self over my comfort. Number 7. Create systems that make your old patterns impossible. Here's where most people get transformation completely wrong. They rely on willpower and motivation to change their lives. They think if they just want it badly enough, if they just try hard enough, if they just push through the resistance, they'll eventually become a different person. But willpower is finite, motivation is temporary, and resistance is constant. The people who actually transform their lives understand something different. They don't fight their old patterns. They make them impossible to continue. James Clear, studying ancient wisdom and modern behavior science, revealed this truth. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. The Stoics understood this principle 2,000 years ago. They knew that lasting change doesn't come from heroic efforts. It comes from intelligent design. Think about it this way. If you want to stop eating junk food, you could rely on willpower to resist temptation every time you see it. Or you could remove all junk food from your house. Avoid thiols in the grocery store where it's sold, and surround yourself with healthy options instead. Which approach is more likely to succeed long term? The second approach works because it changes your environment to support your new identity instead of fighting against your old one. It removes the friction from good choices and adds friction to bad choices. It makes the right decision the easy decision and the wrong decision the difficult decision. This is what creating systems means. You're designating your life so that the person you want to become is the natural result of your daily environment, not the exception to it. You're building structures that make your new behaviors automatic and your old behaviors nearly impossible. Start with your physical environment. Look around your living space, your workspace, your car. What does this environment encourage? If you want to read more books, are books visible and easily accessible, or are they buried in a closet while your TV dominates the room? If you want to exercise regularly, are your workout clothes laid out and your gym bag packed? Or do you have to search for everything when you want to work out? Your environment should be set up to serve the person you're becoming, not the person you used to be. Every object, every setup, every arrangement should make it easier to make good choices and harder to make bad choices. This isn't about perfection. It's about removing as much friction as possible from the behaviors you want to develop. But systems go beyond physical environment. They include your schedule, your routines, your social connections, your information. Diet. If you want to become more focused, you don't just try harder to focus. You eliminate distractions. You turn off notifications. You create specific times for checking email and social media. You design your day so that your most important work happens when your energy is highest. If you want to become more positive, you don't just think positive thoughts. You consume positive content, spend time with positive people, and create routines. That puts you in a positive state of mind. You make optimism the path of least resistance in your daily life. The most powerful systems are the ones that compound over time. Small changes in your environment and routines create small changes in your behavior. Small changes in your behavior create small changes in your identity. Small changes in your identity create small changes in your results over time. These small changes compound into massive transformation. But here's the key. Your systems have to be designed for the person you're becoming, not the person you are right now. If you design systems based on your current level of discipline, motivation, or skill, you'll stay at your current level. You have to design systems that pull you forward into the identity you want to develop. This means making your system slightly challenging but not overwhelming. If you've never exercised, don't design a system that requires you to work out 2 hours every day. Design a system that makes it easy to exercise for 15 minutes every day. Once that becomes automatic, you can gradually increase the challenge. The beautiful thing about systems is that they work even when you don't feel like it. On days when your motivation is low, when your willpower is depleted, when you're tired or stressed or distracted, your systems keep working. They carry you forward even when you can't carry yourself. Most people try to change their lives through force. They try to overpower their old patterns through sheer effort. But the smartest people change their lives through design. They create conditions that make their new life inevitable rather than trying to force their old life to change. Stop fighting your old patterns and start designing systems that make them irrelevant. Create an environment, schedule, and routine that naturally produce the behaviors of the person you want to become. Make your transformation automatic rather than heroic. Number 8. Learn to love the process more than the outcome. Here's the difference between people who transform their lives temporarily and people who transform them permanently. The temporary changes are obsessed with reaching the destination, while the permanent changes fall in love with the journey. They understand something profound that most people miss. The person you become in the process of achieving your goals is more valuable than the goals themselves. The Stoic philosopher Seneca wrote, "The willing destiny guides them. The unwilling destiny drags them." What he understood is that when you resist the process of change, when you're constantly focused on when it will be over, when you'll arrive, when you'll finally be the person you want to be, you're making every day of your transformation miserable. But when you embrace the process, when you find joy in the daily work of becoming better, transformation stops being something you endure and becomes something you enjoy. Most people approach their transformation like it's a prison sentence. They count down the days until they can go back to their old habits. They see discipline as punishment, hard work as suffering, and delayed gratification as deprivation. They're constantly asking, when will this get easier? When will I see results? When can I stop doing this and just be the person I want to be? But this mindset guarantees failure because it treats your new behaviors as temporary inconveniences rather than permanent lifestyle changes. The moment you reach your goal or the moment progress gets difficult, you'll abandon the very behaviors that created your success because you never learned to love them for their own sake. The people who sustain transformation long-term think differently. They understand that there is no destination where you suddenly become perfect and never have to work on yourself again. There's no finish line where you can stop growing, stop challenging yourself, stop doing the things that made you successful in the first place. The process of becoming better is a lifelong journey, and the sooner you learn to love that journey, the sooner you'll stop feeling like you're sacrificing and start feeling like you're investing. This shift happens when you start paying attention to how the process itself is changing you. Notice how discipline makes you feel more confident. Notice how hard work makes you respect yourself more. Notice how delayed gratification makes you trust yourself more. Notice how pushing through resistance makes you stronger, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. When you're working out, don't just focus on the weight you want to lose or the muscle you want to gain. Pay attention to how it feels. To keep a promise to yourself. Pay attention to how your energy improves throughout the day. Pay attention to how your stress levels decrease. Pay attention to how your self-respect increases every time you do something your old self wouldn't have done. When you're building new habits, Don't just focus on the end result. Pay attention to how it feels to have a control over your choices. Pay attention to how your confidence grows when you realize you can change any area of your life you want. Pay attention to how peaceful it feels to live according to your values instead of your impulses. The process itself becomes the reward when you realize that every day you stick to your new standards. Every day you choose growth over comfort. Every day you act like the person you want to become. You're not just working toward a goal, you're proving to yourself that you are capable of being whoever you decide to be. This is incredibly powerful because it makes you independent from external results. You don't need to see progress on the scale to feel good about your workout. You don't need others to notice your changes to feel proud of your effort. You don't need perfect outcomes to feel successful because you're measuring success by your commitment to the process, not just the results the process produces. When you love the process, consistency becomes natural instead of forced. You don't have to motivate yourself to do things you enjoy. You don't have to force yourself to maintain habits that make you feel good about yourself. You don't have to push yourself to continue behaviors that are improving your life in ways you can feel every single day. The most successful people in any field understand this principle. They love the daily work of getting better. They find joy in the practice, not just the performance. They get excited about the process of improvement, not just the moment of achievement. This is why they can sustain excellence for decades, while others burn out after a few months. Start looking for reasons to love what you're doing right now to become who you want to be. Find the joy in the discipline. Find the satisfaction in the struggle. Find the peace in the process. When you make this shift, transformation stops being something you have to do and becomes something you get to do. Number 9. Stop waiting for perfect conditions to take imperfect action. There's a lie that keeps more people stuck than any other lie they tell themselves. I'll start when conditions are perfect. They're waiting for the right time, the right resources, the right knowledge, the right support, the right circumstances. They think that successful people had all the advantages, all the answers, all the perfect conditions before they began their transformation. But here's the truth that will change everything for you. Perfect conditions didn't create perfect people. Perfect people create perfect conditions. Epictetus, who transformed himself from a slave into one of history's greatest philosophers, taught, first say to yourself, what would you be, and then do what you have to do. Notice he didn't say, first wait until you have everything you need, then figure out what you want to be. He understood that clarity comes through action, not before action. You discover who you can become by starting to become them, not by waiting until you're ready to become them. The people who wait for perfect conditions are really waiting for a guarantee that they won't fail, won't struggle, won't face obstacles, won't make mistakes. But transformation doesn't come with guarantees. It comes with challenges, setbacks, uncertainty, and the constant need to figure things out as you go. The people who transform their lives are not the ones who had perfect conditions. They're the ones who started with imperfect conditions and improved them along the way. Right now, you don't have enough time, enough money, enough knowledge, enough support, enough confidence, or enough clarity about exactly how to become the person you want to be. And guess what? You never will. There will always be something missing, something you wish you had more of, something that could make the journey easier. If you wait for all those things to align perfectly, you'll be waiting forever. But here's what happens when you start taking action with imperfect conditions. You create momentum. Momentum creates confidence. Confidence creates better decisions. Better decisions create better results. Better results create better conditions. And better conditions create more opportunities to grow. The very act of starting with what you have begins to attract what you need. When you take imperfect action, you also learn faster than people who wait for perfect conditions. You discover what works and what doesn't through real experience, not theoretical planning. You develop skills through practice, not through preparation. You build confidence through doing, not through thinking about doing. Most people think they need to have their entire transformation figured out before they start. They want a detailed plan, a clear timeline, guaranteed results, and perfect circumstances. But the most successful transformations happen when people commit to the direction they want to go, and then figure out the specific steps along the way. You don't need to know exactly how you're going to become the person you went to be. You just need to know what the next step is and be willing to take it. You don't need perfect conditions to start. You need perfect commitment to continue, regardless of conditions. Think about it this way. If you wait until you have enough time to exercise, you'll never exercise because there's always something that needs your time. But if you start exercising with the time you have, you'll find ways to create more time for exercise. If you wait until you have enough money to invest in your growth, you'll never invest because there are always expenses that need your money. But if you start investing what you can, you'll find ways to invest more. The conditions you're waiting for are often created by the actions you're avoiding. You want more confidence? Start taking action despite feeling unconfident. You want more knowledge? Start learning while you're doing. You want more support? Start supporting yourself by keeping promises to yourself. You want better circumstance? Start making better choices with the circumstances you have. Imperfect action beats perfect inaction every single time. The person who works out inconsistently is in better shape than the person who has the perfect workout plan but never uses it. The person who eats healthy most of the time is healthier than the person who knows everything about nutrition but never applies it. The person who takes imperfect steps toward their goals is closer to achieving them than the person who waits for perfect clarity about their goals. Your transformation doesn't require perfect conditions. It requires consistent action despite imperfect conditions. Start where you are. Use what you have. Do what you can. The perfect time to begin is now. With whatever you've got, however you can. Perfect conditions are a luxury that successful people create through imperfect action. Number 10. Trust that your future self will thank you for starting today. Here's the final truth that will either inspire you to begin your transformation or condemn you to remain exactly where you are. Every single day you delay becoming who you're meant to be is a day you steal from your future self. Every moment you spend making excuses, seeking comfort, or waiting for perfect conditions is a moment your future self will wish they could have back. But every step you take today toward becoming better is a gift you give to every version of yourself that comes after. Marcus Aurelius, reflecting on time and legacy, wrote, "Time is like a river made up of the events which happen, and the current is swift. For no sooner does anything appear than it has swept by, and another has come in its place, and that too will be swept away." He understood that life is not a dress rehearsal. The time you have right now to transform yourself is not guaranteed to exist tomorrow. The opportunity to become who you want to be is available right now in this moment, and it may not be available later. Your future self is counting on the decisions you make today. They're hoping you'll choose through a couch over the couch, the healthy meal over the comfort food, The difficult conversation over the comfortable silence, the investment in growth over the instant gratification. They're praying you'll start building the habits, developing the mindset, and taking the actions that will create the life they want to live. But here's what's beautiful about this relationship with your future self. They're not just hoping you'll make good choices. They're willing to reward you for making them. Every time you choose growth over comfort today, your future self gets to experience the compound benefits of that choice. Every time you say no to your old patterns and yes to your new identity, you're creating a better reality for the person you're becoming. Think about your past self for a moment. Are there decisions they made that you're grateful for today? Maybe they saved money that helped you through a difficult time. Maybe they learned a skill that opened doors for you. Maybe they took care of their health in ways that benefit you now. Maybe they ended a relationship that wasn't serving them, which created space for better relationships in your life now. Now, think about decisions your past self made that you wish they hadn't. Maybe they neglected their health and you're dealing with the consequences now. Maybe they avoided difficult conversations and you inherited unresolved problems. Maybe they chose comfort over growth and you're starting from a place you wish was further along. This is exactly the same relationship you have with your future self right now. The choices you make today will either be gifts or burdens to the person you become tomorrow, next month, next year. Your future self is either going to thank you for the discipline, courage, and vision you show today, or they're going to wish you had been stronger, braver, more committed to their well-being. The most powerful motivation for transformation isn't what you'll gain, it's who you'll become in the process of gaining it. Your future self won't just have better results, they'll have the confidence that comes from keeping promises to themselves. They'll have the self-respect that comes from doing hard things when they didn't feel like it. They'll have the inner strength that comes from choosing growth over comfort repeatedly. But your future self will also have something even more valuable. They'll know that they can trust themselves. They'll know that when they set a goal, they'll achieve it. When they make a commitment, they'll keep it. When they face a challenge, they'll handle it. This self for us becomes the foundation for everything else they want to create in their life. Every day you postpone your transformation, you're teaching yourself that you can't be trusted to follow through on important commitments. You're reinforcing the belief that you'll always find an excuse to avoid doing what you know you should do. You're creating a pattern of self-betrayal. Feel less achievable, feel less achievable. But every day you show up for your transformation, even when you don't feel like it. Especially when you don't feel like it, you're proving to yourself that you're the kind of person who keeps their word. You're building evidence that you're capable of change. You're creating momentum that makes future growth easier and more natural. Your future self is not some abstract concept. They're the real person you will become based on the choices you'll make right now. They're waiting for you to give them the gift of a life well lived, relationships worth having, health worth enjoying, and achievements worth celebrating. But they can't create any of that without your cooperation today. The transformation you're considering isn't just about improving your circumstances. It's about becoming someone who can be trusted with better circumstances. It's about developing the character, wisdom, and strength to handle the life you say you want. Your future self is counting on you to become worthy of the dreams you have today. Stop stealing from your future self by postponing your growth. Stop betraying them by choosing comfort over character. Stop disappointing them by making excuses. Instead of making progress, start today, start now. Start with whatever you have, wherever you are, however you can. Your future self is waiting, and they believe in you even when you don't believe in yourself. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I am building a future my soul can be proud of. You've just discovered 10 truths that separate people who transform their lives from people who just think about transforming their lives. But knowing these truths isn't enough. Understanding these principles won't change anything unless you're willing to act on them. The question isn't whether this information makes sense to you. The question is whether you're ready to use it. Right now, you're at a crossroads. You can close this video, go back to your regular routine, and continue biked, same person you were when you started watching. Or you can make today the day you finally stop talking about changing and start actually changing. You can make this the moment you stop being a victim of your circumstances and start being the architect of your future. The old you have had its time. It served its purpose. It got you this far. But it can't take you where you want to go next. The person you need to become stronger, wiser, more disciplined, more aligned with your values. That person is waiting for you to give them permission to exist. They're waiting for you to destroy the patterns, beliefs, and habits that keep them trapped in potential instead of living in reality. Remember, this transformation happens alone first. Not because you hate people, but because you understand that you cannot give what you don't have. You cannot love others deeply if you don't respect yourself. You cannot build meaningful relationships if you don't know who you are. You cannot contribute something valuable to the world if you haven't developed your own value first. The solitude, the discomfort, the uncertainty, the resistance from others, all of it is temporary. But the person you become through this process, the confidence you build, the self-respect you develop, the life you create, that's permanent. That's the foundation everything else in your life will be built on. Your future self is counting on. The decision you make right now, they're hoping you'll finally stop waiting for perfect conditions and start taking imperfect action. They're hoping you'll stop seeking permission from others and start trusting your own vision. They're hoping you'll stop explaining yourself and start embodying the change you want to see. The time for thinking about transformation is over. The time for transformation itself is now. Like this video if it spoke to something deep inside you. Comment below with your commitment to change. Share it with someone who needs to hear this message, and subscribe to this channel for more wisdom that will support your journey. The old you ends today. The new you begins now. Make the choice that your future self will thank you for making.